Hi everyone, it's Justine here from House of Mahalo. Thanks so much for joining me. So this week I'm starting a new project. I'm going to be making a Tim Holtz altered file folder journal, and as you might have guessed from these gorgeous papers, I'm doing it in a sciencey botanical type theme. So the inspiration for this comes from Tatty Treasure. She actually has, I think it's a 3-part series on her YouTube channel from quite a while back, but you know, she showed the ins and outs of making one. And I actually have all the ephemera made already, that I've made either on screen or off screen, you know, a mix of the two. So now really it's just about building up the journal. Now I'm going to make mine in a slightly different way from how Tania did hers, just because, you know, we all have different supplies, so of course we're going to change things up. So I thought I would bring you along for the process, for those of you who'd like to watch, and I've never made one, so we're just going to figure it out as we go, really. So these are the papers that I've got, so I don't need those at the moment. I just really wanted you to have something a little bit more interesting to see when you first saw the video, rather than just this. Okay, so what we've got here is an A4 sized file folder in craft brown. At the moment it's just folded in half, that's just how they came. I actually got these from Tania's Etsy shop. And we need a large envelope, so thankfully this one is more or less, it's pretty spot on for being the same height as the file folder. So this is like a C5, A5 sized envelope, I think. Okay, so we've got that. So the first thing that I want to do is put a spine in my file folder so that we've got enough space for the flips and flaps and ephemera and everything that we're going to add. So I think I want a 1/2 inch spine. I think that should be plenty big enough for what I'm going to have in it. So it's folded in half, so that tells me exactly what halfway is, which looks to be 18.5 centimeters, and it's a little bit of a funny measurement here, so I'm just going to move this along so that it's at 7 inches. Just makes it a little bit easier for me to see. And then I want to do 1/4 inch to the right of that. Whoop, stay on the line, Justine. Trouble with these file folders is they're quite thick, so it's a little bit tricky to actually stay in the groove. There we go. And then I want to go 2 to the left. So I'm marking it at 7 1/4 and 7 3/4, but it's not on the line. So yeah, just 2 to the left, 2 to the right. That should give us a 1/2 inch spine. I will double check it in a minute. And it should be in the middle. So let's just double check. Yeah, 1/2 inch, perfect. Okay, so I think that's my front, so I just want to fold that up. And that is my 1/2 inch spine all ready to go. So we're done with the scoring board, so I can put that away. Okay, so looking good. Now the thing with these file folders is they're not always terribly straight, so you might want to just have a quick look through things, trim things up where you need to, which I'm probably going to sort afterwards, because I might want to just, you know, I don't know really. I might not. I'll see what it looks like once I've actually cut it open. Okay, so we've got the spine. So now we want to cut the folder, which is the reason I've been putting off this project. I've wanted to do this for a while, but I've been putting it off because I was a bit nervous about this part. So normally I would do my file folder journals, you know, just keep it all as one piece. But in Tania's tutorial, she actually had the notebook coming out of the back here, like this bit of a pouch. And to do that, we need to cut into the back piece. So we essentially want to cut this piece along the bottom here, so just this section. So to do that, I'm going to open it up and carefully as I can, whoops, knock the camera, sorry about that. Hopefully you can see it. I'm just going to cut carefully as I can along that bottom edge. And I'm just going to cut up to my first score mark that I come across, which for a minute there I just had to double check where that actually was. I think so. I'm using blunt scissors so that I don't end up cutting too much. So then when we fold this over, you essentially get this flap. And in Tania's recent file folders, she's been turning these into extra pages, which I might try one day. But for this one, this eventually, once we come around to doing it, will be our pouch. So I'm just going to give that a bone folder down, and I'll do the same with my spine that we put in just now. So as always, I will link Tania's videos in my description box so you can see how she went about it, because of course we're not doing it exactly the same. And obviously my inspiration comes from her for the project, so do check out her videos if you'd like. Okay, looks good. I think I am happy with that. So now I think we need to be putting some tape into the project. So I've got framers tape, which I like to use for this kind of a thing. And I'm going to run the tape from top to bottom. Now this is quite a large file folder, so if I've gone off screen for a minute, I'm very sorry. I might need to cut that snip that bit a little bit now that I've done that. Maybe you should do the tape first, but I haven't gone over it too much. I don't think it's that big a deal. Just cut off the excess there and here. That's it. I'm going slow because I've never made one, so this is my experiment that I am simply going to take you along for the ride. Okay, yeah, so I could probably do with some more tape along that section. So I'm just going to run some tape here as well. Okay, so that is the basic part done. Now we are going to put a gusset in the top and bottom of this, but I want to wait to do that because I actually want to line this middle section with paper. Although you don't see it, I'll show you. Because the file folders are not perfectly symmetrical, straight, etc., what you end up getting is essentially extra like lip at the back here where, you know, things don't quite match. So I'm thinking if there was paper inside here, that would then help disguise that, so that when you're looking at it from the back view, it won't look quite so, you know, garish. So that's what I'm going to go with. So we'll sort that in part 2. That will be when we do the matting of the papers. But for now, I just want to get the bare bones sorted. So that's what I've got. And then we want to put the envelope flip out in. So there's a chance that I might need to cut the envelope down a bit because we've put a spine into the folder. But actually, it looks like that is quite a nice fit. So I'm going to cut off a small piece from the envelope. This isn't so much for the space as such, but it would be nice to be able to have a large journaling card in here, I think. So I'm essentially going to cut off 1/4 of an inch. So now we've got a lot more space here to lift out the envelope, but also if I were to have something in the pocket, I might very well want to have a tab poking out and have a large journal card. So that gives us now enough room for that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get the envelope glued in, because matting it will be quite easy given it's just a you know, a straightforward rectangular envelope. So I'm going to use my Kalau because it gives me enough wiggle room, and I'm just going to glue the flap. And we're going to glue the flap inside this front piece. And I'm just going to move it into place so that we've got enough room. And then, oops, and then just going to smidge that down. Now really, I should probably have cut the envelope flap down because we don't really need this whole great big triangle, but I didn't think about that at the time. Not to worry though. Just going to check all in the right place before the glue dries. Yeah, pretty good. So that is that part done. So I might just go in there with a little bit more glue, but for that I'm going to use my art glitter glue tip. I don't like to go right up to the edges with my glues when I use like Fabri-Tac or Kalau. The reason, because they're quite wet glues, so they have the tendency to like smush out everywhere. And of course, if you get things too wet, it doesn't look professional, but also it can make things weaker if the glues are coming out too wet, because of course, you know, if paper gets wet, it falls apart, it disintegrates, doesn't it? So where possible, I try to avoid that kind of a thing. Okay, so that is my little flip out. Now, in Tania's tutorial, she had a like a centre insert piece, which looked really cool. And essentially it was just an A4 piece of craft card that she glued into her spine, and that gave her extra space for, you know, pockets and other ephemera. So I want to have something like that, but I don't have any brown card. The only brown card I've got is just file folders, but I don't want to use another one. So instead I looked for some scrapbooking papers, and I've actually got this nice A4 one which has pictures of butterflies and like postage stamps over it, and I thought I could have this in the centre. Obviously it's white in the middle. Again, I don't have any brown paper. What I do have is lots and lots of brown packing paper. So I'm thinking, because this is a botanical sciencey type theme, I'm thinking if I line my insert with this, not only will it be fun and crinkly, it will make a nice sound, it will be quite rustic. And of course, you know me, I love to reuse things I've got. So my first job is to go ahead and glue this brown paper down. Wait, before I do that, I had somewhere, I had a little flip out that I was going to add, this thing. So I just want to double check where this is going to go. Oh, okay, that's fine. That's going to glue on the outside, so I'll have to have something covering that up. That's good to know. Or I glue it here, and then my brown paper. Yeah, good. Okay, good. So this is something that I made. Rewind. This is a piece of ephemera that I made off screen at some point. Basically, it's I think I was doing something with scraps. So it's basically a small envelope, so tiny, and all I've done is backed it with some Tim Holtz paper and added a couple of small pockets. So I've got little like Tim Holtz cards and tea cards. And then on the front, I had this piece of ephemera, which was basically a piece of cardstock with a hole punched in, and then I've added a little, almost like a specimen hole in the back there, just with that little Tim Holtz mushroom. And I'm probably going to have like a label on the front. It's not finished, but I'm going to have that in there, I think. So I'm just trying to decide. I think I'll have it up so that I'm balancing the load a bit. So a good thing that I thought to do this. So if you are going to have flip outs and you have to line things or what have you, go ahead and pop your flip outs in before you start lining papers and whatnot. Otherwise you'll have to cover the envelope flap, which is not a big deal. If you do end up having to cover envelope flaps and everything, no big deal. All can always be done. So all we want to make sure when we're doing it this way is that your thing that you're using as the flip out is butt up as close as you can to the edge of your paper, so that then when we put the paper inside, we're not going to get in the way of this flipping out. If I didn't mention already, this is very much a craft with me. Okay, lovely. So now I'm going to open that. Now I can put my glue onto this white paper, just the white part that I want to cover. And I am going to sew this paper onto this cardstock so that I know it's definitely on there. And also I want a sewn edge, because I do like that. So I was just making sure I had a straight edge, because I thought with me having that flip out there, I just want to go right butt up to that as best I can. If there's any white showing, that's okay, because I will just ink that. You know, because at the end of the day I am very much upcycling something, which, you know me, I do love to do. So I'm just getting my fold in there so that my paper can get used to the way that I want it to lie. And then I'm just going to cut around my cardstock. There we go, all cut around. So I am going to sew this just around the outside, probably a zigzag stitch. So when I do that, I've got to be really careful that I don't sew this flip out closed. So when I sew it, I'll do it this way so I can see that this is outside, and I just want to run a zigzag down here, which will also capture my flip out for extra protection. And that will just give me the look I kind of want to achieve with this insert. And then on the front, I'm going to have some kind of book plate. Not necessarily a metal one, but just like a field notes type label is what I want to go for. And as to where this is going to go and how it's going to work, we've got a couple of options. Now in Tania's video, she actually had a spine in this piece that she then glued into her spine of the file folder. Now I would like this to look more like a notebook, which is why I've not got a spine in there, so I'm not going to add one. So I've got a couple of options here. Either I could have this piece be removable, in which case I would have eyelets in the spine and have this on elastics, so you can take the whole thing out. Much like you've seen me do with removable journals. Or using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, I could just stitch this into my spine like we would sewing our signatures in. That's an option. For now though, I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do it. I think both would work. I'm not really leaning more towards either one of them. I think, they would both work fine. So let's review. What have we done then? So we have got the bare bones of the file folder done. So we've got our 1/2 inch spine. We've got our envelope flip out, which is going to be a pocket, or we can glue this shut if we don't want to use it as a pocket. The choice is ours. This part in the back, we're going to put a gusset in here, but we're not doing that yet. We're going to wait until we've matted these papers first. So that will be that. And of course we've made the insert, which has its own little flip out, and then this will have, you know, pockets and things in. So I'll get this sewn in the meantime. On the next part, well, the next job really is to map the papers, because at the moment it's just a file folder. I need to decide whether I'm doing that on screen or off screen. I might do some of it off screen because it's really just gluing papers down. There's not really much to it at this point. But I might very well do some of it with you just to show exactly how I've done it. I'll probably do that, yeah. So that's that. Now at this point we should probably talk about closures. So in Tania's example, she used hemp string or hemp cord, which she actually ran through this middle here. She actually had it taped in here, and then it would tie at the side here with a little bow. That is one option, and that's how Tania did it in her example. A different way to do it would be if you were to have your closure on the outside instead. Now it's really up to you what look you prefer. I might go for a tie on the outside just because I think I'm going to use either seam binding or ribbon or something a bit more meaty like that, only because it's a look that I want for my own project. So in that case I'll probably add the closure at this point rather than on the inside. So that's kind of where we got to. I don't want to make these videos too long in case you do want to follow along. So I'm probably going to leave it there, but I'm just trying to decide if my closure is going to be on the outside, then I can probably get away with closing this front part up. Yeah, I'm going to close it up because I don't think I need to leave it open at this point. So that will be the last job. So I'm only gluing this part of the file folder, just this one little quadrant, just that has the envelope, and I'm only going up to my spine, so I'm not going past that. I'm being very careful not to smudge too much glue as well because I don't want to glue the whole thing closed. That's it. And then I'm just gonna get that nicely glued down. That will then strengthen my front cover because we've now got the two panels glued. That's it. Just checking not got glue where I'm not supposed to, because of course this back piece, we're not gluing this yet. We want to add our gussets first, which we'll do later. I need to map the papers first. Okay. So then you just want to check you've got this front section just completely glued up, which hides your envelope flap that you've got. And then just cover it at the top. Another option is you could have left this part open at the top to give you a large pocket, but in this occasion I didn't want to do that for this one because I'm going to have, you know, a large journal card in this envelope. So instead I just want this to be really, really sturdy and strong so that when you're opening the journal like this, you know, it's less likely to wear and tear with time. Okay, so I will leave it there. I realised that, you know, it's not totally clear exactly how it's going to look at this point. This is just part one. If you would like a clue, then do take a look at Tania's video, which I'll link in the description box so you can see sort of the path that I'm going down. But obviously mine will look different. Naturally, we all do things differently. So I thought I would document my process, and you know, for those of you who are interested watching something come together, you might like to enjoy watching. You might like to enjoy watching. I don't know what kind of English that was. So yeah, so that is where we've got to in part one. We have the bare bones of an altered file folder and our first little flip out and our first little interesting thing. So from here I'll get this sewn, I'll get the papers ready for matting them. I will do some of the matting off screen, just the boring bits, the bits that you don't really need to see. And then when we come back in part two, we'll map the last few papers, the ones that I'll do with you, and from there, it's really simple. We can just start adding the ephemera, which I have a few things made already, which hopefully will be enough, and I'll do that part of the process with you as well, where we'll go through and you know, start adding the ephemera and basically building this up into a fun little sciencey botanical journal. So I hope that you've enjoyed that. Thank you ever so much for keeping me company as I figured things out. As I say, very much a craft with me because I have not made one in this style before. I have made an altered file folder, Edith Holden ones, and I do have a playlist for that. So you know, if you'd like to see other ways to make file folders, then do check out those videos. But for now though, I'm gonna be working on this one. So thank you so much for keeping me company, and we'll speak soon. Bye bye for now.